As you recall in the last video, we had a drop-down menu item that as soon as you clicked it and dropped down the menu, it took all the items that were selected in the list view and generated a list of all the DVD IDs that are associated with those menu items. And we just popped up a message box that showed what these DVD IDs were, and something I called an edit list. As we've so often done in the past in this project, we're now going to go from a stub routine, a routine that just shows what action gets taken in a way that's graphic so we can see us working, to the actual code we want to use. And in order to do that, we're going to call one function called pop for populate listing with edit list, and then we pass the edit list that we generated. And there's many advantages to using a handmaiden function like this. For one thing, if it's going to be called from multiple places, you don't have to write the code multiple times and then make sure all the parallel versions are in sync with each other. You just change everything in one place. And this more clearly defines the interface, which in this case is the edit list, and the infrastructure. And the infrastructure is going to be expanding greatly in the next couple of videos. And code like this is self-documenting because quite often the name of the function describes what's going on, and it encapsulates data and code involved in specific actions in one place, which for one thing makes the code much more readable because you don't have a huge embrangled spaghetti code that you have to go through to figure out where things are happening. And it also makes the code much easier to debug because you have this code doing this action, so if that action doesn't work correctly, you know exactly where to look to change it to find the bug. So if we look at this handmaiden function, I went up a function too far. We basically have a local variable that's a string of SQL. Then we have a list view item and list view sub items, which are used to populate the list view. And then we have a MySQL data reader, which is initially set to null, which reads in all the data. And the select statement that we're using, the MySQL select statement, basically is the one we've been using all along with a join of the three tables. But the where clause is d.dvdid in, and then the edit list that we've specified previously in single quotes, in double quotes. Actually, I don't mean either of those. I mean between parentheses. The double quotes are just to delimit the strings that are being concatenated together. And then once again we order by title so it's easy to read. And we create a MySQL command object with this SQL and the shared connection object, and then execute a reader based on this MySQL command. And then we go through and populate the list view, initially with the main list view item, which is the title, and then a number of sub items including location, genre, scene, and DVD ID. And then ultimately, once these are all filled in, you add it to the list view control with the items.add of this built list view string. So that does one row at a time for each row that we've read in with the data reader. And then, well, I'll explain what these two commands are about in a minute, but these are really important. So if we save this and compile and run it and go to the listing and say select all DVDs and then click on a number of DVD records, initially by clicking and then by doing multiple ones by doing control and click. And let's do and then if we click on the change selected, you see instead of getting a message box that pops up that list, we actually populate the list view with all the fields involved for this list. So we create a subset of the data based on what we've selected, and that's what the whole nature of an edit list is, as I'm defining it. And the reason for this is we want to treat this data as a group. For instance, if these were all haven't seen and I want to change them all to seen, I can then drop down the list and click on seen and make that change for all those records. So it creates an edit group. But one of the problems with this is every time I drop down this menu, if we just had the code as it was, it would pop up a message box that said nothing was selected, because dropping this down implies that I want to create another edit list. So that's where those two commands come in, or two statements come in that we were looking at previously. Basically what these do is they say edit mode list equals to true. So now things are going to operate differently because we're in a different mode. We're in edit list mode. And then we also set the edit list to a global variable so we can access it later when we access our other commands. So if we look at the main code for that menu item being clicked, you'll see it says if we're in the edit list mode, just return, don't do anything, because we've already selected the data group and we don't want to keep trying to select the data group. We want to work on the data group using the other commands in the drop down list. Well, the main where clause we're using for this select is actually something we haven't seen before. It's the where in and then the list contained inside parentheses, and these are items separated by commas. So any DVD ID that matches these record numbers separated by commas is going to be included in the select. And we're going to use this concept of an N a number of times, not just for select but also for update. So we've sort of begun a subset of SQL that involves using the N clause, and it'll be used in the next 2 or 3 videos as well, with update instead of select. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a lot, and I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe.